just trying to be a father, raise a daughter and a son, be a lover to their mother, everything to everyone, often at 'em bright and early, all business in my suit, yeah, I'm dressed up for success, from my head down to my boots, don't do it for the money, there's bills that I can't pay, don't do it for the glory, just do it anyway, provide for our future, my responsibility, yeah, I'm real good under pressure, being all that I can be, I can't call in sick on Monday, the weekend's been too strong, I just work straight through the holiday, sometimes all night long. You can bet that I stand ready when the wolf growls at the door. Hey, I'm solid, hey, I'm steady, hey, I'm true down to the core. I will always do my duty, no matter what the price. I've counted up the cost, and I know the sacrifice. Oh, and I don't want to drive you, but if God's asking me, well, I'll bear that cross with honor. Freedom don't come free. I'm an American soldier, American. Beside my brothers and my sisters, I'll try to take the step. When liberty's in jeopardy, I'll always do what's right. 'Cause I'm out here on the front line, sleep in peace tonight. American soldier, I'm an American soldier. American soldiers, American, beside our brothers and our sisters, proud to take a stand. When liberty's in jeopardy, I'll always do what's right. 'Cause I'm out here on the front line, sleep in peace tonight. American soldier, well, I'm American. We're American. We're American.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to you. I know we have what is going to be a very inspirational program for you this afternoon. My name is Mike Hayes, and I'm the Vice President of Funeral Operations for the Family Legacy and Harpeth Hills companies of funeral homes, cemeteries, and cremation centers around Greater Nashville. So on behalf of the owner of those companies, Mr. Bill Gregory, and our entire staff, wonderful employees, We want to welcome you to our home in Hendersonville and the beautiful grounds of Hendersonville Memory Gardens. Thank you for coming. We're here today to honor our Vietnam veterans, and behind me and to the side of me on these walls are the names of the fallen. A reminder that freedom is not free, and we honor their sacrifices here today. They're gone from us for many years now, but not forgotten, because in front of me are those of you and thousands around the country like you who have persevered in the cause, that their lives and stories and sacrifices should always be remembered. Your dedication and devotion is truly inspirational. So for those remembered today, and to our Vietnam veterans in our audience, and to all veterans of our armed forces, we say this afternoon, welcome home. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our Master of Ceremonies. Mr. Bill Cody is a member of the Country Music Disc Jockey Hall of Fame. He is host of WSM Radio's morning show, Coffee, Country, and Cody, and a Grand Ole Opry announcer and host. And if you'll look to your program, you'll find a list of awards and recognitions as long as my leg. And they're just a very fraction of this gentleman's achievements. But what I want to tell you about Bill Cody today is he is genuinely a nice guy. He befriended us when we sponsored this wall at our Springfield Funeral Home and Springfield Memorial Gardens in Robertson County a year ago. And in the meantime, he has rallied resources, given of his personal time, helped us promote, and has done so much to embrace the cause and the significance of this memorial. And it's my pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce to you Bill Cody.
Mike, thank you. And Gabby, I don't know where Toby Keith is tonight, but I'll be a son of a gun if he wouldn't be proud of that performance. I bring you greetings from Robertson County, Cross Plains, my hometown. We may not have what you want in Cross Plains, but you can park free to look for it. Just remember that, okay? Thank you to everyone. I am here tonight as a child of this war, the Vietnam War. It is the war of my childhood. Although not a veteran, my father was a combat veteran of World War II. The American military has been at the heart of my life and my upbringing as long as I have memories of being alive. Tonight, we gather to honor 58,307 names on the wall as of 2015, and all those veterans that served during this time. I would like to ask you all to stand now for the presentation of colors by Station Camp High School, JROTC.
Forward, right, left, 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 right, right, left, 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 right, right, left, 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 right, right, left, 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 arm on, arm, shoulder, hold, shoulder, arm.
Please remain standing for the invocation delivered by U.S. Air Force veteran and Vietnam Veterans of America Chapter 240 Chaplain Willie Wright.
Would you remove your headgear and bow with me, please? Heavenly Father, as we come before Thee now, let us remember all of our comrades that has passed before us. Let us remember all the ones that are with us now, that are so proud to be with us now, and the ones that are proud that are not with us. But we're we remember those that are with us. Now, as we remember those that are not with us, let us remember the POWs and MIAs as a moment of silent prayer, please. Now, as we continue our prayer, dear Heavenly Father, let us remember those that are in the hospital, that are continuing all the many things that they have to do to them. Let us remember the families that are golden families that are on the wall that are remembering those. Let us remember all the many things that they have to do. Let us remember all the many things that we do for the families. Let us remember all the many things that we do. And let us remember the ones that are here, that we can take care of the ones that we're doing now. Let us remember the government, that they do the right thing for all the ones. Let us remember the ones that are out now that are in war, that you'll take care of them. Now, as we close this prayer, help us all out. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Reason, arm.
Please remain standing as U.S. Navy veteran and Vietnam Veterans of America Chapter 240 Secretary Joe Roberts leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please continue standing and welcome Gold Star Mother Kathy Mullins to sing our national anthem.
Can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleam, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets regular, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Mom. Kathy Mullins, please remain standing for the retirement of colors.
Right, face. Forward, arms. Forward, right, left, 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 right, 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 right, left, left. Guard, oh. Order.
Please be seated.
Guard.
The moving wall is the half-size replica of the Washington, D.C. Vietnam Veterans Memorial. It has been touring the country for 30-plus years now. When John Devitt attended the 1982 dedication in Washington, he felt the positive power of the wall as we know it. He vowed to share that experience with those who did not have the opportunity to go to Washington. John, Nora Shears, Jerry Haver, and other Vietnam veteran volunteers built the moving wall. It went on display for the first time in Tyler, Texas in October 1984. Two structures of the moving wall now travel the United States from April through November, spending about a week at each site. For those of you who are visiting us from out of town, out of state, just know that it's always like this in early November in metropolitan Nashville, right? Somebody's been living right. Mike? Is it you? I came across this quote from the 18th President of the United States and a U.S. Army Commanding General, U.S. Grant, who said, as he looked back on the Civil War, but it really could apply to wars prior to and certainly since then, tonight, the Vietnam War. Let their heroism and sacrifices be evergreen and in our memory. Let not the results of their sacrifices be destroyed. The Union and the free institutions for which it stands and for which they fell should be held dear for their sacrifices. I shared the stage the other night at the Grand Ole Opry with one of the great patriots of our time, Charlie Daniels, Country Music Hall of Famer and Grand Ole Opry star. He said, "In my heart," and he looked out at that packed house audience at the Grand Ole Opry House, said, "In my heart, I believe there's only one reason we remain sovereign and free in the United States of America. That's the grace of Almighty God and the United States military." We salute you tonight. Vietnam veterans, 9.7% of their generation, 3,403,100, including over 500,000 offshore personnel served in the Southeast Asia Theater, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, flight crews based in Thailand, and sailors in adjacent South China Sea waters. 2,594,000 personnel served within the borders of South Vietnam from January 1st, 1965 to March 28, 1973. Another 50,000 men served in Vietnam between 1960 and 1964. Of the 2.6 million, between 1 and 1.6 million, that's 40 to 60%, either fought in combat, provided close support, or at least fairly regularly exposed to enemy attack. 7,484 women, 6,250 or 83.5% were nurses who served in Vietnam. Peak troop strength in Vietnam. Peak troop strength was 543,482 Americans. That was April 30th, 1968. To give you context, I was 9 years old. Casualties. Hostile deaths, 47,378. Non-hostile deaths, 10,800. Total, 58,202. Married men killed, 17,539. 61% of the men killed were 21 years of age or younger. Wounded, 303,704. Left severely disabled, 75,000. Missing in action, 2,338. POWs, 766. 114 died in captivity. It gives you pause. I would now like to introduce Barry Rice, President of the Tennessee State Council of the Vietnam Veterans of America. The State Council is comprised of 27 Vietnam veteran chapters across our great state. Barry served as a combat company commander in Vietnam with the 1st Air Cavalry Division and will also be introducing tonight's guest speaker. Please make welcome Barry Rice.
Thank you, Bill. Our Gold Star mothers, fathers, and wives will see a loved one on the wall and weep Vietnam veterans see a brother who fell in battle and who may have died in their arms. Visitors say a name and may wonder, who was he or who was she? Well, I'd like to introduce you to a scruffy-haired kid. Actually, if you can imagine it, kind of a blonde-haired or dirty blonde version of Gomer Pyle. He's still suffering from teenage acne. Just a young kid, a man before his time, with a ready smile and a heart jam-packed with hopes and dreams. While serving with the 1st Air Cav, this young kid shadowed me as my radio telephone operator in the jungle and at forward fire bases. It was always during down times while we may have been receiving supplies and bullets in the jungle, or even at a forward fire base, he was always quick to whip out a picture of his girlfriend back home and say, "Dai Wee, when I get back to the world, I'm her man." After a while, it just became easier to just call him her man, and then it just got narrowed down to Herman. Herman and I developed a bond and a confidence I will carry with me forever. A bond that only veterans can understand. After several months of fighting beside Herman and knowing he would always be there with the radio so I could communicate with platoon leaders, artillery, air support, or even the battalion commander, I was wounded and unable to move on my own. Herman braved the incoming rocket and small arms fire to get me to the medevac helicopter. Later, while in the hospital back in the States, one of my life's saddest days was when word reached me that Herman had made the supreme sacrifice, thus surrendering his hopes and dreams so that his brothers and all Americans could live and enjoy the freedoms we take so naturally. I had lost a young man I loved. Herman was and is my brother, as are all the fallen whose names are inscribed on this magnificent wall. Herman, your name will forever be inscribed on my heart. The Distinguished Service Cross is our nation's second highest award for valor. I'd like to read just a short excerpt from one hero's citation, which symbolizes the willingness of all of our military to write a check to the United States in amount up to and including their very life. The point element came under heavy fire and several members were seriously wounded. He immediately advanced through the bullet-swept area, firing a machine gun as he went. As he was covering several of his comrades who were evacuating casualties, he was wounded by hostile automatic weapons fire. As he was withdrawing to his company's defensive perimeter, he spotted a wounded comrade and moved to assist him. When he had reached the fallen soldier, the enemy unleashed a heavy volume of fire at the two men. He covered the man's body with his own and was mortally wounded. This award was presented posthumously to the family of Specialist 4th Class Richard Waycaster, my brother Herman, whose name is inscribed on panel 32 West, line 61. The young kid with hopes and dreams for his future. The young kid, a man way before his time. All gave some, Herman gave his all. Because of the ultimate sacrifice by Herman and by all the men and women whose names are inscribed on this wall, a Americans are able to pursue their hopes and dreams and are able to sleep in peace at night. The men and women whose names are inscribed on this beautiful wall, and all of our nations fallen from all conflicts, deserve our never-ending thanks and remembrance. Ladies and gentlemen, William A. Robinson enlisted in the United States Air Force after graduating high school in 1963. After several assignments in the United States and a year in Korea, Airman First Class Robinson was transferred to Thailand to serve with an Air Force rescue and recovery unit in the spring of 1965. In North Vietnam on September 20th, 1965, flying aboard a HH-43D helicopter during a rescue mission to save a downed F-105 pilot, Airman Robinson and his crew were shot down by enemy fire. He and his crew survived the crash, but were soon captured by enemy forces. He served the next 7.5 years as prisoner of war in North Vietnam, the longest held enlisted POW in American history. Airman Robinson was the first enlisted man to receive the Air Force Cross, a Medal for Valor, second only to the Medal of Honor. He was also awarded a Silver Star, Legion of Merit, Bronze Star, POW Medal, 2 Purple Hearts, along with 17 other medals and decorations. Bill was also commissioned an officer by President Richard Nixon after his release. Captain Robinson retired from the Air Force in 1984 after serving his country honorably for 23 years. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to introduce my good friend, William B. Robinson.
Thank you. It'll be hard to follow that because we are, in fact, brothers. Sometimes you think about prisoners of war, and I look for some one-liners, and I realize the title of some of the books that were written by my fellow prisoners kind of sum it up. When hell was in session, chained eagle, in the presence of my enemy, they wouldn't let me die. The long road home. And one of the favorite ones that I like to make note of is a Tennessee patriot. A lot of people don't know about Admiral Billy Lawrence, shot down in North Vietnam, taken captive. But during his torture sessions, in order to get his mind off of what was going on, he penned what now is the national poem of the state of Tennessee. It's simply called My Home, Tennessee. So I encourage you to take the opportunity to read the poem and understand what it meant to him to survive the difficult circumstances just by remembering his home. It is indeed an honor to be here today to share a few minutes with you in front of the traveling wall as it comes through and is shared by so many. A special thanks to those who have made it happen. I am honored to join our veterans today and share with them respect and gratitude for what we simply say thank you. For without veterans, there would be no United States of America. They answered our nation's call and without our service, have kept America strong, protected our way of life, and preserved the freedoms that we enjoy today. While growing up in a little cotton mill town back east, my grandfather took me out to the mill where he worked. And behind a plexiglass wall was just similar to this, name after name after name. Finally, my grandfather broke the silence and he told me about that war. He told me about my country. The stories of World War II, when we were viciously attacked at Pearl Harbor. These young men and women on that wall went and volunteered, raised their right hand and said, "Take me," as Barry mentioned, up into including their life for the freedoms that we enjoy today. We discussed the different folks on the wall, and my dad and many others. And during the conversation, I noticed that some of the names had stars beside them. And I asked my grandfather, what does that star mean? Kind of with a lump in his throat and a tear in his eyes, he said, they're the ones who made the ultimate sacrifice for the freedoms that we enjoy today. We fast forward to my generation. Behind us is over 58,000 stars of our brothers and sisters who made the ultimate sacrifice for the freedoms that we enjoy today. Yes, there's still over 1,600 still listed as missing in action. They joined the some 83,000 other Americans from other wars who are still unaccounted for. And I pray that our nation continues its efforts to bring closure to as many families as possible as we go down this venturous road. Freedom. Doors with inside knobs. It's that simple, said a returning POW friend of mine, Paul Galante. Yes, over 200 years ago, we became a free nation. During that period of time, all gave some, and some gave all, to ensure we remain free. Freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of religion or no religion, freedom of choice. We could go on and on about the freedoms we enjoy every day, but if like a bad dream, you lost all your freedoms. You might say that I had that dream. While serving my country in Southeast Asia, I was shot down on a rescue mission, was captured, and spent the next 8 Thanksgivings, 8 Christmases, and 8 New Years in captivity. You could simply say my life changed forever. I was interested earlier, I went back to the museum they have there, and they had a simple pair of shoes that were cut out the sidewall of car tire. And the gentleman asked me, do you remember these? I said, yes. That was the shoes we wore for nearly 8 years. My experience could easily be described as hours, days, weeks, months, and yes, years of boredom punctuated by terror. Our life was filled. No Big Macs, no ice cream, no junk food, no designer jeans. We wore black pajamas, no Nikes. As I mentioned, the shoes were cut out of the sidewall of an old car tire. No radio, no TV, no video, no music, no phone, no cold, no hot water, cold in the winter, hot in the summer, limited if any medical care. Along with other prisoners of war, I was tortured and abused. Luck was on my side. I only spent about 6 months in solitary confinement, where some guys spent as much as 7 years. The cells I lived in would range in size from 3 by 3, 5 by 7 to 8 by 10, and eventually we moved into larger rooms. We were fed twice a day. It consisted of a soup or side dish, mostly greens or other seasonal vegetables. Name only, has no names whatsoever. We just named them according to taste, and their names were sewer weed, swamp weed, soap greens, and somehow I could forget pumpkin soup for days on end. Our staple was rice and occasional bread. And how could I forget about Fred? Fred was a little fellow we used to find in that bread. It never bothered us because Fred was always dead. It only bothered us when we found half of Fred. We received 2 special meals a year, one at Christmas and one at their New Year, consisting of a little meat, a cup of coffee, a piece of fruit, or maybe a piece of sweet bread. Writing and receiving letters was next to none. After a movement spearheaded by our families, after being left in the dark for so long, the families took to the airways and wanted to know about their sons, their fathers, their brothers, their uncles, their husbands. And as a result of the action of the families, the Vietnamese eventually allowed our families to send us a package. Those packages were small in nature, but it was a welcome sight, considering we had been cut off from the outside world when the bombing had started. We had truly been labeled expendable. You think about how well we were cut off, and think about the fact that we learned that Neil Armstrong had walked on the moon on the back of a sugar pack that was picked up off a restaurant table and sent in a care package. Yes, we saw our status go from expendable to high value. But the thing that kept us alive was our faith. Faith in ourselves that we had the tools to do the job. Faith in each other that we'd stand together and we return home with honor together. Faith in our country, but most of all, faith in our God never faltered as we waited patiently for the war to end. Some say, well, why didn't you escape? Well, when you're a foot taller and 100 pounds heavier, sometimes you just couldn't blend into the neighborhood. We pay due respect for our prisoners of war that were held in Europe. And in fact, their efforts to the war game during World War II, they kept 1 million Germans off front line just looking for escaped prisoners of war. So sometimes what they do can play an important part. Yes, as we move forward, I'm thankful for the men and women of the Army, the Navy, Marines, Air Force, and Coast Guard, willing to stand between me and those who would enslave mankind. Their resolve to defeat the enemies of freedom. To the families who proudly serve and sacrifice for their loved ones who are wearing the uniforms of our armed forces today, we simply say thank you. As I look back on my 7+ years, I'll always say that one of the saddest moments to me is when we forgave those who ran before we as a nation said thank you to those who served. Yes, I had the opportunity to come home to a hero's welcome that belonged to many of you out here in this audience. I cannot imagine how you felt when you were proudly had served your country, and then you were brought back in the middle of the night, ushered into an area in San Francisco, and they told you, by the way, before you left Vietnam, to pack some civilian clothes. They didn't tell you when you got home, you got back to American soil, that you could no longer wear your uniform. They waited the last minute to tell you your uniform wasn't welcome in America. And it's a sad moment that it's taken so many years for we as Americans to stand up and say, hell no, that's not right. And so I simply say thank you to my brothers for the welcoming home that I got that belonged to you. I'd like to share with you the words of former Tennessee Senator Fred Thompson. Rest in peace, sir. This country has shed more blood for the freedom of other people than all the other nations on the history of the world combined. And I am tired of America feeling like they've got to apologize for America. A special message that was written by a friend of mine who's long since passed. And he simply said, during my years of captivity, one idea has dominated my thinking. How fortunate I am to be in America. I have seen the other side. I have had every real and imaginative fault of the United States of America pointed out to me time and time again by my captors. But I have returned with a strong conviction, although we are far from perfect, our system excels all others on earth. Our basic ideas and principles are honorable and just. And I can't help but think of Dave standing up here when he looked out to the young faces, especially some of the junior ROTC that someday will wear the uniforms of our country, and perhaps some of the ones here that have worn it, when he said, I have faith that we will continue to work for a peaceful world and freedom while firmly resisting those who would enslave mankind. We draw back on the words of Ronald Reagan. Some people spend an entire lifetime wondering if they made a difference. Our armed forces don't have that problem. A World War II POW gave me a bumper sticker which I'm proud to display in my room, and it simply says, only two defining forces ever offered to die for you, Jesus Christ and the American soldier. One died for your soul, and the other died for your freedom. In this great land, some people just dream the dream. Some live the dream. Our armed forces defend those dreams. God bless the defenders of the dream. Thank you.
Bill Robinson, preceded by Barry Rice. I want to recognize special guests who are in the audience tonight as darkness falls. There's something very peaceful about this year's ceremony. Last year was beautiful and it was sunny and it was late in the morning, early afternoon. As the sun sinks in the west, things are calm and you are free. We recognize District 45 State Representative Lieutenant Colonel Courtney Rogers tonight. Her dad is on the wall, Major Ralph Marion Dryden, United States Marine Corps. Thank you. Also on the wall, Specialist Joseph Foss, United States Army. His wife is here this evening, Margaret Stone, daughter Becky Foss, and son retired Army First Sergeant Glenn Foss. They are here tonight. You would stand and be recognized. Hendersonville Mayor Jamie Clary is with us this evening. Mayor, thank you for your support. Wonderful to be in your community. I want to take a moment to recognize our volunteers. You can hold your applause. They're in your program, if you would, until I'm finished. Dave Peterson, Terry Wilson, Joe Pem, Keith Carlaw, Lou Freilich, Lee Cherry, Ann Rice, Willie Wright, Joe Roberts, Cliff Barnes, Mayor Clary, Mayor Brown, Many Bears Grinder, Hendersonville Police Department, Goodlettsville Police Department, Sumner County Sheriff, Sumner County EMA, Hardison Moles, Adam Featherston, American Legion Post 45, Post 45 Legion Riders, Station Camp Junior ROTC. I applaud you back there. Thank you for coming. Rolling Thunder, Patriot Guard Riders, Sumner County VSO, Sumner County Vets, VFW Post 9851, American Legion Post 290, American Legion Post 17, VVA Chapter 240, VVA Chapter 1128, VVA Chapter 979 in Kingsport, Sumner County Band, Family Legacy Staff, Combat Vets, American Legion Riders, David Westhorpe, Tommy Killian, Springfield Parks and Recreation, Kathy Mullins, Gold Star Mothers, Gold Star Families. Your applause, please. I want to thank Randy Nash and Ben Upton, and Randy for his invite and for coming on Coffee Country and Cody to talk about this event yesterday in great detail, the Family Legacy and Hendersonville Memorial Gardens staff. And at this time, the Sumner County Community Band will be performing a service medley. And I encourage all veterans to please stand with their branch hymn when it is played, please, if you would. Let's hear for the Sumner County Community Band. Salute that, yeah. And to Vinnie Bears Grinder for the choreography with the United States Army there. That was good. You guys missed that in the back. Those of us on stage got a front row view of that. It's great. On the day that Army plays Air Force, don't tell me because I'm recording it when I get home. But if my old Army dad were here, he would say, go Army, beat Navy.
Line up facing this way. To your left.
If you would now,
Line up facing to your left.
ask you all to stand.
Right here.
We'll read the names of the 25 Sumner County Vietnam veterans that are on the moving wall, who have signs along Vietnam Veterans Boulevard. As you came in this evening, you've seen those. There will be a rifle volley behind you after taps. Please be aware of that.
Safety's off.
Dave Peterson and Joe Pem will ring the bell. Jerry Ashley will now read the names.
In memory of the Sumner County Vietnam veterans who made the ultimate sacrifice, we read these names today with feelings of both sadness and pride. Sadness in that those individuals are no longer with us, and with so much pride and appreciation for their courage and devotion to duty. George L. Anglin, Wilbur D. Osbrooks, Jr., Ollie E. Crenshaw, Jr., Jerry N. Creasy, Philip M. Cruz, Alvin E. Cross, Eric T. Duffer, Jerry W. Hammock, Benjamin C. Hartman, Jr., Larry D. Essen, James D. Hunter, Arthur E. Likens, Ralph D. McMurtry, Glenn S. Miller, Nelson M. O'Neill, Ronald D. Perry, John R. Petty, Jr., John J. Sessler, Harold M. Sloan, Donald L. Templeton, Robert L. Trisdale, Clifton Walker, Raymond E. Wright, Danny S. Young, Jimmy D. Youngblood. May God grant you eternal rest. May God bless the United States of America.
Details, fence hut, Forward, arm. Right, face. Ready, aim, fire. Aim, fire. Aim, fire. Detail, left face. Present, arm. Order, arm.
Keith Carlaw, his performance on the bagpipes of Amazing Grace. We've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. I'm Bill Cody. God bless you all. God bless the United States of America.